Facebook Live on the Fox News channel, Peter Doocy, Pete Buttigieg. You get any questions you really didn't like? And don't say it too loud because Chris Wallace is sitting right behind you.
No, they're great questions and a really good conversation. You know, this is the great thing about this part of the process. You get in a room with the people that you're seeking to convince and hear about what's on their mind instead of them just listening to a speech from you. So it was a really great use of the hour and continue to earn support for this campaign.
Chris, he said he didn't hate any of the questions. Okay, he liked all the questions.
Maybe the one about me getting older, maybe. That was a great conversation.
At one point, there was a woman from the pro-life Democrats who challenged you about your position. Afterwards, she came up to us and told us that you lost her vote. When you hear things like that, does that bother you? Does it ever make you consider maybe I should change my position or maybe I should rethink some part of it?
Look, I want to draw as many people as possible into this effort, Democrats, Republicans, and independents. But there are times when somebody has a different belief than I do, and they're not going to change their view, and my view is settled too, and the best I can do is negotiate that difference of opinion with respect. So hopefully there's some sense of mutual respect, even if her political opinions means that she's going to move in a different direction.
And there was so much talk before the impeachment trial started about what is going to happen, how will the candidates that have to go back to D.C. campaign, what about the candidates that don't have to go back to D.C.? Have you noticed, has it been harder for you to break through in the last week with Iowans?
Not really, because the questions we're getting here from Iowans are about how their lives are going to be impacted by this election. I get very few questions about impeachment, not because it isn't important, but I think because folks who are looking at a presidential candidate want to know about what happens next. Remember, by definition, I'm running to be the president for after the Trump administration ends, as well as being the nominee who can defeat him if he's on the ballot in November. And so it's an opportunity really to talk about the big picture and where we're headed, and remind voters, above all, that no matter what happens on the floor of the Senate, it's actually up to us in 2020 to send a message about what we want the Senate and the White House to look like.
Is there anything that you're going to do in the final week, or that you have to do in the final week in Iowa to finish in the top three, or to have the 15% threshold that you haven't already been doing?
Well, I think I need to continue making that closing argument about how the way to turn the page, the way to win, is to make sure that we, instead of relying on the same Washington playbook that got us here, are willing to do something different, move forward with solutions to our problems. Of course, the rest of it is making sure we have a strong organization on the ground and making sure I continue to keep our organization motivated and fired up as they go out, reaching out to caucus goers, voters, and ensuring that we have a great night on Monday.
How much sleep do you get in a night when you're campaigning back to back to back when the caucuses are a week away?
You know, it just depends on the travel, but what I will say is when I'm in that bed, I am fast asleep, and then we get up and go at it again.
All right, well, another late night. Thank you very much, Pete. All right, appreciate it. All right, so now, instant analysis. We don't have to go far.
I never usually analyze while the candidate is standing right there. You can grade me as I go. No, but it's very nice to meet you. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
All right, I think there might be some people that want selfies here or something.
Possibly.
So, Chris, how did he do?
You know, it's hard when you have to do it over and over and over again. And you know, in Iowa, he's had, 24 trips to Iowa. And how many town halls has he done? 50 town halls, 75 town halls here. It's hard to sound fresh. And at the beginning, it sounded he was a little rote, maybe. Things were a little textbook. But I actually think that the questioner who brought him the abortion question and her follow-up got him more in his groove. He got out of his shell a little bit, mixed it up, and I thought by the end of it, it was very human. It was very...
Buttigieg fit in there.
So Iowa for Democrats does pick presidents, right? They do, as you talked about in the package that you did. Every Democratic nominee since 1996 has won Iowa. It's a big deal for them. But Iowa also... performance in Iowa could be determinative for how intense and how long the Democratic battle goes.
How much should we read into this? I've been to dozens of candidate events in the last couple of weeks here, and not all the candidates have people sticking around for more than 5 minutes after, hoping for a photo or a handshake. What kind of metric is that? Is that a valuable metric that people are willing to stand around here when you need them to stand around in 8 days in a gym?
I was going to say, standing in large numbers in public spaces is actually the key skill set for winning the Iowa caucus. You need intensity. And remember, with the new rules this year, the pressure on groups that are not viable, if you don't get to 15%, so if you imagine this room as a caucus room, right? If, let's say, Amy Klobuchar doesn't make the cut, let's say Andrew Yang doesn't make the cut in your caucus area, doesn't get to 15%, the intensity and the magnetism of Buttigieg and his campaign could be what runs up his numbers in a lot of places.
And then I'll have Chris just spin us around here. But how much in Iowa does it matter when a top-tier presidential candidate will be out in a crowd, not constrained by a rope line? Obviously, there's security and measures are taken, but he is body to body with people that he needs. How much does that add? Because we don't see that from a Joe Biden, a Bernie Sanders, an Elizabeth Warren every day in such I mean, we're obviously very organized, but that is not.
We're very organized.
Yeah.
Clarify, Fox News Channel is extremely organized.
Right. Exactly.
But Joe Biden is running as an incumbent, right? He wants you to feel a Secret Service mojo. He wants you to feel like he is a big and important person, and he has solid. He's like a battleship sailing across the ocean, and he's big and steady and stable. But the problem is, smaller crafts, more nimble crafts like this can cause problems. So it's necessary, it's urgently necessary for him to make the people here and across Iowa feel like it's a happening, right? This isn't just politics as usual. Something different is happening here, because how else are you going to convince somebody to, as Chris Wallace called him, the 38-year-old mayor of the 308th largest city in the United States? It's got to be a happening, and it's got to be something different.
So what's next? Are you sticking around through caucus time, or are you going back?
I'm going to run back, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to be lots of Iowa. There will be lots of Iowa. I'm going to do like an eighth of a Doocy, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be here until the caucus night. What am I going to see between now and then? It's like 8 days.
What you're going to see is something crazy from Elizabeth Warren.
Crazy how?
As the shot clock runs down on Elizabeth Warren, and she needs it. She needs Iowa every bit as much as Pete Buttigieg does. She's got to show well here so that she can go to New Hampshire and make her argument against Bernie Sanders. She's got to change the dynamic here. She's got to change the momentum, and she's got to get into real contention. So I don't know whether she brings back the attacks or whether she does something or bring back the golden retriever. She's got to do something to change the dynamic in Iowa, so we'll see.
People like golden retrievers?
People like golden retrievers. They're adorable dogs.
All right, for Chris Stirewalt, Peter Doocy, signing off in Des Moines. Till next time.